What's up YouTube? How are you guys doing? My name is Peedy and today I will be doing a complete rundown for the patch 10.6 notes for League of Legends. As always, I will be highlighting all the changes. I will give you my opinion on them and how they change the meta. Please bear with me. I have a bit of a sore throat. I'm feeling very ill. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short as possible to not strain my voice too much. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure it's not Corona. So I should be up and running in a couple of days again. Obviously, if you're new here and you want to support me and help my channel grow, make sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you want to check out the links in the description for my Discord, my social media, and my Twitch channel, that would be awesome as well. Without further ado, let's delve right into the changes, shall we? The first thing that we will see is about the autofill balance in ranked. Basically, what Riot is trying to do is they're trying to balance the amount of autofills in both teams, or make sure there are no autofills at all, without having the queue times completely skyrocket. So I hope this will work out, because obviously having multiple autofills is a disadvantage, right? Because you are being filled into a role that you usually don't play, or you don't play as much. Another thing they're looking at is to balance out the number of pre-mates in both teams. That's not coming out right now in this patch, but they're looking at it and they're testing it. I like these changes because everything that makes matchmaking more balanced is obviously a good thing, as long as they can make sure that the queue times do not go through the roof, right? That's obviously the most important thing that shouldn't happen. Alright, let's go into the champions. Anivia's ultimate Glacial Storm is getting her ice duration changed from 2 to 3 seconds, and that's now the same as her Q's ice duration, which is also 3 seconds. I mean, Anivia is in a decent spot. She's not going to be a lot better because of these changes. I think it's more quality of life, if anything. It's still a small buff, but it's not going to change her place in the meta at all. So that's not really anything big. Moving on with Aphelios. Aphelios is getting a couple of changes to Severum, his Scythe pistol. The heal is being scaled down. Then his Infernum, the flamethrower, is getting the damage to minions reduced. And then Crescendum, the Chakram, is getting the basic attack and power damage nerfed as well. Three pretty decently sized nerfs, because obviously Aphelios has been broken ever since he came out. Every single patch so far, they have nerfed him over and over again. And I feel like he's still very strong. He's obviously not broken or OP, but he's still really, really strong. These three changes should really push him back into a more normal spot, and I actually like it. This should bring Aphelios to a level where he's on par with some of the other AD carries without feeling broken. He still has a very strong kit with a lot of good abilities in it, so definitely I think this should balance him out. Nice change. I'm actually really happy with this. Moving on, Darius. Darius is one of the strongest top laners in the current meta, and they're taking a stab at nerfing him. They're doing two things. First of all, the W bonus physical damage is getting a nerf, and the mana cost is getting increased. And the mana cost of his E are getting increased on earlier levels and slightly lower on later levels. Both of these changes are very minor, and they're not going to impact him a lot. The only thing that's going to change is that in the early game, if he misses his E, yeah, it's going to be a little bit feels bad, man. And it's going to make him a little weaker because his trading potential is scaled down a little bit. But what he does, he still does exceptionally well. He's still going to bully you. And he usually doesn't E to grab you in. He usually E's when he's already on top of you. So I don't really think that's going to matter a lot. And as soon as he did his first or second back, it's completely nullified. So Darius is still going to be extremely strong. And this is not enough to nerf him and to tone him down at all. Next up, Draven. Draven is getting his W movement speed increased from 40 to 60 to 50 to 70. Overall, this is also a very minor buff. Draven has a very high skill cap, and increasing his decaying movement speed by 10% in every rank. Sure, it's going to give him some more chase down potential, but it's not really going to affect him too much. So it's just a small buff. Garen. They're going to nerf Garen this patch. They're going to do two things. First of all, magic resist growth is going from 1.25 to 0.75, and his judgment crit ratio on his E is going from 50% to 33%. Garen has been seeing multiple buffs and nerfs already this season, and he's been doing really well. He's very strong. This magic resist change is not going to do a lot, because if you do the math, it's going to mean that at level 18 he has 9 MR less. And the crit ratio on his E is going down, is a direct nerf to crit Garen, obviously. He's still very strong. It's not really a big change, and he's still gonna just spin on you, silence you, and do a ton of damage and be super tanky. So definitely still keep playing him. This is not enough to bring him down to a normal spot. Let's move on. Hecarim, the horse in the jungle. He is getting a slight buff on his ult duration, on his fear duration of his ult. It's going from 0.75 to 1.5 based on distance to 0.75 to 2. So basically the max fear is going up by half a second. It's a nice small little buff, you know, because obviously half a second longer being feared means he can do some more damage. He's at a he's not at a very good spot right now in the meta. He has been seeing a lot of play last season. This season, he's kind of falling off because other junglers are just straight up better. He's kind of out of the meta. I don't think that this is going to put him back into the meta. But obviously, if you like playing him, it's just going to make him a little bit stronger and it's going to make his ganks a little bit better. But overall, this is not going to push him back to absolute S tier status or anything. Like, not even close. So, too bad, because I actually like Hecarim and I like playing him a lot last season. Kayn. In the last patch, they smoothed out his orb gain, and his transformation apparently shifted back to later in the game. So what they're doing this time, his orb gain speed is going at 10 to 30 minutes into the game. He will increase it by 15%. So it's rising throughout the duration. This will push his form earlier again. Overall, this is just a small change. It doesn't really affect him at all. Next up, Kindred. Kindred is seeing some changes. First of all, the base stats are going from 2.26 to 2.45 on the attack damage growth. The mana regen is going from 6.972 to 7, so negligible, is just a rounding up. His W, health restore, is going up, and Lamb's Respite is going up as well, the healing on his ultimate. Some smaller buffs to Kindred. She is not really doing too well. She's not seeing a lot of play, and these changes, again, are not really going to affect her too much. So, too bad. Could have done more with that, so this is just not enough. Morgana is getting a movement speed buff from 330 to 335, and her Black Shield's shielding amount is going up at early levels as well. Overall, she is at a pretty decent spot in the meta. As a support, she's obviously picked to counter hard engaged champions like Leona, Blitzcrank, and Nautilus. In the mid lane, she's doing pretty well as well. So, you know, it's a nice little change. It doesn't really do that much, but sure, it's going to make her early game a little bit stronger for the support role. So that's okay. It's a nice change. Rice is getting a mana regen increase from 0.8 to 1 on the mana regen growth. So that's pretty much nothing. You have a little bit extra mana to play with around at the beginning. Obviously, the later stages of the game and in the mid game, you don't really see this change at all because he's building so much mana that this multiplier here will not make any difference. W, the damage on his Room Prison is being increased at later levels. Usually you max this last, so you're only going to see this change in the very late game at the latest levels. And it's going to make him slightly stronger, but the buff overall is not big at all, so it's not going to affect him too much. Senna. Her passive AD per soul is decreased and the mist cooldown now scales. As you can see here on her passive, attack damage per soul is going from 1 to 0.75, and the weakened soul cooldown, instead of 4 seconds flat, it's going to 6, 5, and 4. On level 1, 6, and 11 in seconds. Senna has been very strong. She has been very strong ever since she has been released. At multiple points, they tried to nerf her. This is another step at nerfing her. She has been seeing some play lately, especially in Korea, with supports doing the farming in the early game. Overall, she's still strong. This nerf is just not enough. Like, she has such a strong kit. She heals a lot. She has, like, everything that an AD carry or a support needs. And this is just not really going to tone her down too much. She's still extremely strong, and this is just not enough to balance her out to a better spot. We will still see Senna all the time. She's probably still going to be a pick or ban in competitive. So it's again, like, Riot is just, they keep making these small changes, like ever so slightly, like these very tiny small numbers, and they're just not doing much, you know. I sometimes would hope they just would nerf it harder, you know. I just don't get why they have to do these small little changes, because they're so afraid to not destroy a champion. I mean, they can always hotfix it if it's too much, but this doesn't really do anything. These 0.25, these 0.5, these plus 2%, it's just garbage. Like, I don't know why they're doing these little changes, and it's actually something I don't like at all. I would hope they would grow some balls and finally start buffing and nerfing properly, and not just do these small changes that really don't matter at all. Well, let's move on to Shaco. Shaco is getting a nerf to AD Shaco. Not sure why, because honestly, I only see AP Shacos all over the place, but okay. His clone basic attack damage is going from 75% to 60% of his total attack damage. So sure, I guess if you play AD Shaco, obviously this is a big nerf, but I only see AP Shacos most of the time, so that doesn't really do anything for AP Shaco, so I don't know. I guess time will tell, but I don't think this has any impact at all, because I don't really know many people that play AD Shaco. Soraka is getting a small buff again. Her Q rejuvenation heal is getting increased, and the movement speed bonus is getting increased. As you can see, it's going from 40-80 to 50-90 with a 0.3 ability power scaling. Movement speed bonus is going from 10 to 20 to 15 to 25. I feel like Riot is having the feeling that they nerfed her too much. Obviously, she's still good, even after the nerfs. So now they're doing these little buffs to not make her too strong, so we don't get her back to top lane, because no one wants her back in the top lane, obviously. Yeah, this is a nice buff. Obviously, this helps support as well. This shouldn't bring her back into the top lane, I don't think. Or at least not to the position that she was before all the nerfs. So this is an okay change. Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate is getting his W changed. The blue and the red card AP ratio going up from 0.5 to 0.9 on his blue card, and from 0.5 to 0.6 on his red card. Obviously, a very big scaling change. And it's going to mean that in the late game, he's not always going to just pick gold cards. He can also pick other cards. And he might actually be able to do some really big damage combos with his blue card now, because the scaling is going up a lot. So a pretty nice change. Urgot. Urgot's Q slow duration is getting increased. The E stun duration is getting increased as well. The slow duration on his Q is going from 1 to 1.25. The stun duration on his E is going from 0.75 to 1. It's a pretty decent buff. It's not going to really push him back into the meta. Urgot is not really seeing a lot of play, and this is not going to change with this patch either. Vega. Vega is getting some small buffs. His attack damage is going from 50.71 to 52. His ratio growth is going from 2625 to 27. His armor is going up from 22.55 to 23. Why even do this? Like, what is this even going to do at all? Like, let's be honest, what difference does it make if his armor goes up by 0.45? Q, Baleful Strike. The base damage is going up from 70 to 230 to 80 to 240. So a very small buff to his Q, which might help him farm in the early levels a bit more with his Q, but overall, it's really not going to make a big difference at all. So, again, a change that just does almost nothing, so sadly. Well, Wukong. Wukong is finally getting his rework, which they have been working on since what feels like patch 10.4 or something. It's finally into the game. I'm planning to make a separate video for this, because if I'm going to have to cover all the changes of him, it's just going to make this video like 10 minutes longer, and there's no point. So I will keep this for another video, which I will upload as soon as I'm feeling a little bit better and my voice is recovered. I will definitely make a video completely only for Wukong. Move on. Xerath is seeing two changes as well. The center damage of his W is increased a little bit, and on his ultimate, Rite of the Arcane, the damage per shot is going up at later levels, and the scaling is increased a little bit. So if you are good with hitting your Ws and you hit them more in the center, it's going to do more damage. And if you're good with sniping people, you're now going to do a little bit more damage as well. Overall, this doesn't really change a lot. Xerath still has the problem, he's very immobile, he's very vulnerable to ganks, because he can't do anything else but flash away if he gets ganked. If he has to ult, he has to stand still and shoot his ult. You know, there's still all these changes that make him very vulnerable to assassins in the mid lane and to ganks, so that's just not going to help him too much. But, I mean, any buff is a buff, I guess, right? So it's... if you're a Xerath main, cool. I guess you're happy now. Moving on. This patch as well is seeing some more jungle champion changes. As you know, for the last two patches, Riot has been trying to buff certain champions to make them more viable in the jungle. This time, we have another round of buffs. We have Brand, Morgana, Shen, Teemo, Yorick, and Zyra. Overall, it's pretty difficult to say how much of an impact these champions will have. Brand should be pretty good because he does tons of damage, so I'm actually looking out to try jungle Brand. Zyra seems pretty strong because, you know, her plants can do a lot of damage and she can just let her plants tank for her, right? So she should be very healthy. Yorick is already being played in the jungle a little bit, so that might make him a little bit stronger. Shen is seeing a huge buff to the Q. Morgana jungle has been a thing, not really anymore. Maybe this brings her back a little bit. And yeah, as you can see, Teemo's blind and toxic shot is getting buffed to monsters. I'm not going to say too much about this because I really will have to see how this turns out, but at least these champions look a lot better than the previous champions they wanted to put in the jungle, like Talon, like Darius, you know, all, like Garen. Makes no sense. These champions, I feel, have some of these champions fit in the jungle way better. I'm actually curious to see what this is going to do. Then, a nerf to the funnel mechanic once again. This time, they're going to change Monster Hunter in this way. They're changing it again, and now you get 50% less XP from the lane minions, if more than half your farm is from minions. This is another step at nerfing funnel, Tareki and Kog'Maw Tarek, for example, but mostly Tareki. Yeah, I feel like this should make it a lot weaker. We might still see it because even after all the nerfs so far, it's still being used. And a lot of times you just send Tarek with Yi in the jungle now to clear it together and to help him. And after 40 minutes, this bonus is removed. So this might still not be enough to completely destroy it. We will have to see. It's still being used a lot and it's still very strong. And if Yi gets fed, it can still completely stomp games. We will see. I can't really comment on if this is going to completely destroy funnel or it's just going to be weaker. But it's going to be weaker nonetheless, right? That's already a given. Then we will see some top lane changes. Again, two things. First of all, Death's Dance is being changed. They're nerfing the attack damage by 30, but they're giving it 30 armor and 30 magic resist on top of that. Plus, they're changing a little bit in the passive. It now stores 30% of all post-mitigation damage received for melee champs and 20% for ranged champs. And they take it as damage over time as true damage as before. So basically, this makes it into, well, purely a melee item, a bruiser item. I like this change because people that build Death's Dance are usually bruisers that go more tanky. And I think it's way better to have 30 more armor and magic resist than to have 30 more attack damage. Because that's usually not why you build that item. So I think that's a good change. Teleport is seeing some changes. What they're doing is they're increasing the cooldown early and they're decreasing it on later levels. As you can see, from 360, it's going to 420 to 240 from level 1 to 18. Plus, it's now going to grant 3 seconds of 30 to 50% movement speed upon completion of the channel. Wow. This seems like a pretty good buff to teleport. I mean, obviously, at the beginning, it doesn't really matter that much because you TP back to lane, or if you get a good base, you can walk back to lane and do your first gank or TP if it goes for a dragon fight or anything like that. So that's not really going to make a big difference in the early game. And in the later stages of the game, I mean, it's going to be a 4-minute cooldown on max level. That's huge. So it's a lot better to split push now, and you will have teleport up a lot more and a lot faster. So, yeah, and the movement speed is also good. You TP in, let's say you TP on a ward, for example, you will have that movement speed to be able to teleport in quicker and not have the problem of, oh, there is no ward, there is no minion nearby, so I'm teleporting in, and before I even arrive there, the fight is over or my team is already dead. Now you're going to be arriving and you're going to sprint in for 3 seconds with a big movement speed burst. So, pretty nice changes to teleport. This will also obviously affect the mid lane and the bot lane. They're doing it like, oh, top lane follow-up, significance follow-up. Obviously, it's not like only top laners take teleport at all. So this is a buff to a lot of champions or a lot of roles in this regard. So nice, I like it. The rest of this is just some changes to recommended items and some ARAM balance changes and the navigation icons and bug fixes. I mean, I'm not going to highlight these because it's not really that important. It was about the champions and the item changes, which I covered. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry, it was a bit of a scuffy video. I mean, my voice is completely failing me. I hope you still enjoyed it. I hope you still learned something. If you did, make sure to hit me up with a thumbs up. Make sure to comment down below what you think about these patch notes. And I hope to see you in the next video. Take care all. Bye-bye. I love you all.